The Taste of Things is out in theaters, new French costume melodrama from Vietnamese director An Hong Tran, starring Juliette Binoche and Benoit Magimel. It takes place in the 19th century France, a countryside manor belonging to a man named Dodin. He's a professional gourmet cook who spends his days on lavish meals and intellectual discussions with his educated friends. He also has a live-in cook who actually does most of the day-to-day cooking at his household. Her name is Eugenie, and the employer-employee relationship actually goes way deeper than just that. The two characters are involved semi-romantically, but despite his pleas, she refuses to marry him officially for reasons which are not obvious and clear immediately. But there's also a darker shadow in the story. Eugenie is ill, occasionally feeling weak and out of breath, with doctors being sort of unable to diagnose her. That's the basic setup. So the movie is several things. First of all, the most obvious layer, it is a film about cooking, and let me warn you, don't go watching it being hungry, because you will get starving during the screening. I made that mistake, and all these scenes of ingredient preparation, frying, cooking, baking, and finally eating made me long for a beautiful meal like one of those presented here. Secondly, it's a movie about love, but not the young romantic love, rather a more mature, older type, less romantic, more pragmatic, with a lot of professional respect for each other's abilities and skills, but still with an undercurrent of genuine care and feeling, and friendship as well. And I dare say the movie itself exemplifies a thesis that Dodin makes about bone marrow as a dish. He says it cannot be appreciated by a young person, that it's something you need life experience to be able to taste and enjoy properly. And I think it applies to the movie as a whole. I think the romance it presents and the way it goes about presenting it will be boring to younger audiences, because they might lack the capacity to relate to these characters and understand their motivations and what drives them. But if you're older and have lived through more experiences, I think you'll find lots more to enjoy here. And thirdly, it's also a movie about sort of the transient nature of things, whether we accept the passing of the past and the coming of the future or not. And this is also something that Dodin and his friends discuss in one of the scenes, and is then kind of more exemplified by the character of the young apprentice, who Dodin initially doesn't want to teach, but then sort of takes under his wing reluctantly, because that's Eugenie's wish. So overall, it's a slow, quiet, contemplative movie. The dialogue almost never is directly about the underlying romance, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 scenes. Otherwise, the talking is done through looks, through gestures, behaviors, and through cooking, through the way these two main characters prepare meals for one another. There's a beautiful sequence of Dodin preparing an exquisite meal for Eugenie, which is one of the most romantic things I've seen on screen, probably. The two central performances are very good and feel absolutely real. The characters have palpable chemistry, which I think is helped by the fact that these two actors were actually married in real life for several years. I think there's also interesting ways in which the movie is made, technically speaking. So first off, the camera is always on the move, almost always. It's not very dynamic and quick, but it constantly slowly pans and swirls around and moves across the rooms and between characters, zooms in and out. And I think that was a way to make the slow scenes more palatable, because the image is not static. You feel a certain sense of movement in a scene which would otherwise appear almost boring. And then there's the sound design. The movie does not use any music at all. It's just the sounds of all the cooking, dishes clacking against each other, meats being fried, footsteps on the floors, water being boiled, things being tasted, and the sounds of the surroundings as well. The wind, the birds around the house, other animals. I thought that was an interesting choice, as it makes you even more focused on the image part, on letting the film do the talking and setting the mood instead of relying on the music. So I thought it was an interesting and good movie overall. Again, not for everyone. I think it's primarily for older, more patient audiences who don't mind an uneventful, subtle, slow-moving film that explores themes which only become apparent as you yourself get older in life. I feel that I was able to appreciate it somewhat, but perhaps it would be better if I revisit it in 10 or 20 years' time.